Hey, what's up, good people, and welcome yet again to another episode of our TechTrends podcast. I know you're used to seeing me with Alan. Alan is my colleague. We always do a podcast together. So we sit down and talk about startups in Africa, talk about payment, and basically any other topic, that we think really affects the startup or the payments or any other topic that basically tech ecosystem in Africa. So of course I'm glad that we are doing this podcast just at the Africa Tech Summit in Nairobi, and of course I'm glad we are doing it. So thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nick Sound Kanali, and I'm gonna let my guest introduce himself.
Okay, thanks Nick for the invite. My name is Ferdinand Wambua. I'm the regional manager for dLocal. I support the East African front in terms of getting the business and also ensuring that at least we are regulatory savvy and happy.
Yeah,
to be
and of course, Kenya being being like a payments market, how is this market for you?
I would say that it's an exciting market. That's one. It also has its own nuances and all that. And I think it's actually good for us as dLocal because we're actually getting into the market and we understand the market and we understand the regulations and we see the opportunities outweigh the challenges which we're experiencing or which other organizations have experienced in this market. It's a good opportunity and we want to exploit.
All right. And of course, just as you say, this market is a very interesting one for you. What kind of partnerships do you engage, especially from an East African perspective?
Okay, thanks. In terms of partnerships, we have many partners in the market. Of course, we have the local payment service providers. We also have liquidity partners. We also have the alternative payment methods, the likes of M-Pesa, Airtel, PesaLink, KenSwitch, and the rest of the players in this market. So our proposition is basically to ensure that at least we collaborate more, not just standalone. It's basically to collaborate more in the market and ensure that at least end users are able to actually make payments in a currency or in a payment method which they understand most. Yes.
And Kenya, as I said earlier, is a very interesting payments market. And over the last couple of years, we've seen the CBK, which is actually the regulator, going very hard on fintechs, going hard on payments company. How would you describe the regulatory landscape, especially around payments? Do you think at times the CBK is hard on startups? Do you think, because we've seen a lot of these fintechs, so just coming out of the sandboxes and building very nice products, but again, regulation really affects how they scale, how they grow. How would you describe the landscape, regulations, in the market?
I would say one thing, the regulations are they are good in the sense that at least not everyone is actually going to actually make it out of the regulatory framework. But the central banks, starting with our own central bank, that's CBK, has actually been very good in terms of supporting the fintechs. There's a regulatory sandbox which is also there. And again, if your product is not actually sitting with the central bank, it's also sitting with the CMA. So you have an opportunity as a fintech to actually scale or to actually get into the regulatory framework or into the sandbox and actually exhibit and see that. Once you actually get out of the sandbox, the thing is about scale. And that's where you go back to the central bank or to the CMA and you get yourself licensed. So in essence, we can actually say that the central bank and the other regulators have actually played a pivotal role in ensuring that at least fintechs are able to actually, one, stand into the sandbox and two, are able to actually scale. Of course, it's actually a big thing, and I would say this, many fintechs will actually be there and they will actually not fit into the sandbox. They will actually also require to actually be held by other fintechs. And we as dLocal and other payment service providers in the market, we are actually leading in terms of actually unholding those small fintechs to ensure that at least they are able to actually scale.
Okay.
Yes.
So you work with a lot of local fintechs as well.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, interesting. And of course, this boom is there, it's growing.
Yes.
What would you say is actually fueling that growth?
I would say one the growth is being fueled by customers need to actually keep on innovating. At the end of the day, it's not about what we want to do. It's about the customers. So the end users are actually the biggest drivers of innovation into this industry. The second thing is also having a framework which allows people to actually innovate. It's a good thing to actually think about something and another thing to actually get it scale. So you also need to ensure that at least you have working within the confines of the law. Then there is also an ambitious youth, which actually wants to do things out of the, exactly, and that's actually what actually keeps us going. Then in terms of that, it also needs to be supported, and it has actually been supported a lot by the internet penetration levels in Kenya, and also mobile penetration as well. Mobile penetration. I think in Kenya we are actually the leading in Africa in terms of mobile phone and connectivity adoptions in this region, which is actually a good thing. Yes.
And how is dLocal planning to take advantage of this opportunity? You know, the smartphone penetration, you know, internet and all those things. A very young population that's very wants to see, you know, they want to do things chap as we say here, you know. How does dLocal want to actually take advantage of this? And
one, I would say dLocal is not actually, we are not built on legacy systems, and we are also not built on legacy mindsets. We are one of the people who actually innovate more than even what is happening in the country. So getting a young person actually coming and showcasing their products and their propositions to dLocal, which we actually give them a platform to do, is actually one thing which we actually enjoy a lot. Secondly, I would also want to say that dLocal, we want to ensure that at least the SMEs and the small the youth, which are actually the center of our innovations, can actually also get to work with us differently. We have several products and several solutions for the youth and also the MSMEs, so that at least they understand they're able to actually scale across the market. So ours is basically to ensure that at least this youth and also the SMEs and the rest of the businesses are able to use our platform and scale not just in Kenya but also across the markets.
Oh, interesting. And just as we almost come to, how is this market for you? You know, Kenya is a very interesting market. You know, we always joke with a lot of my friends, like, you know, Kenya is a pricing market when you're buying stuff. You know, like before I decide to buy a smartphone, I'll say, okay, how much does that cost to me? You know, how much do I have to dig in my pocket? You know, how is this market for dLocal?
Like I said, the market is very exciting. I think it keeps on changing every day. Yes. And that's why we said, if you're building your system on legacy, legacy thoughts and systems, it will become very hard for you. But dLocal, we actually keep on innovating every day. Whatever idea or whatever small idea somebody comes on board with, we are actually able to actually put it in a small sandbox and actually see whether it can actually scale.
Right.
Yes, that's one thing. Besides that, we also support hundreds of merchants. So we are not specific to whatever the end user wants actually to use, and you can actually get it clearly that if somebody wants to actually maybe buy a phone, the first thing they will actually do, they will actually check across different channels, where is the price and all that. For us as a payment service provider and also as a technology platform, our business is to ensure that at least the customer, once they make a choice, they're able to actually support, we are able to support that using the alternative payment methods or currency which they actually understand best.
And how do you actually manage to operate, you know, especially since you live in the East African region, how do you manage to actually operate, you know, across the East African market? Because each country, Kenya has its own regulation, requirements, Uganda has its own, Tanzania its own. How do you actually manage to navigate all this?
One of the things is we have local teams across every market, supported by a global team. That's one thing. The second thing is a highly regulated organization and a NASDAQ listed company. We believe that regulations will exist and we need to actually confine to them. So if you look at our operations in these markets, we will find actually us having licenses and having local connections with every player in this market. That actually gives us a better way of actually positioning dLocal. At the same time, we always ensure that at least you understand whatever is happening regulatory-wise on a day-to-day basis. Like I said, we have local teams across each market which we are operating in, so that they're actually able to see whatever innovation or whatever regulations are actually changing. We cannot actually operate offshore and think that we are supporting locals. Unfortunately, there are so many unwritten rules which we actually need to adopt, and that's why we have to have local teams across those markets.
All right, thank you so much. So, what are you looking forward to for this summit?
Yes, this summit actually brings an opportunity for us, one, to actually interact with our merchants, two, to interact with our partners. Three, also showcase our products and our services into the market, and later on to understand how we can actually also support other like-minded organizations like us, not looking at them as competitors, but looking at them as co-partners in this market, because we believe the market still exists for each and every one of us, and we only need to actually drive it collaboratively. And that's where the central banks and other policy makers actually need to also be part and parcel of these summits, so that at least we can exchange ideas and do that.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, of course, for this, part of the podcast series we are doing at the Africa, Tech Summit here in Nairobi, Kenya. And of course, there are a lot of interesting conversations we're going to be having with a lot of tech leaders in different sectors, from payments to fintech to e-commerce to, telecoms and every other interesting tech that you can think about. So I hope to see you in the next episode. My name is Nixon Kanali. I'll see you in the next one.